Hi, this is Yaakov Baram with Masters Muscle, and this is the second installment of our Mr. Olympias who are over 40 years old. Chris Dickerson is one of the most inspirational bodybuilders in the history of bodybuilding, not only because of what he achieved with his physique, but because of the impact he made on the industry as a person. Without question, Chris is one of the most influential bodybuilders in the history of our sport. This guy was a man of first. He was the first openly gay Mr. Olympia, and as of 2018, he was the oldest Mr. Olympia. He was also the first black man to appear on the cover of Muscular Development magazine. He was also the first man to appear on the cover of Flex magazine. Chris Dickerson was born in 1939 as one of three triplets in the heart of Alabama. His mother was Mahalie Ashley Dickerson, and she was one of the most inspirational women for African Americans at that time. She was a lifelong friend of Rosa Parks, and Mahalia was the first black female attorney in Alabama and the second black woman to be admitted to the Indiana bar in 1951. So even at a young age, Chris was inspired by his mother, showing him that race and gender may set you back, but with enough determination, they could never stop you. At school, Chris always had a flair for athletics, but his main passion was drama and singing, believe it or not. Hoping to one day become an opera singer, Chris went on to study at the New York Academy of Dramatic Art after high school. There, a singing teacher believed Chris would have a stronger voice if he had a stronger chest and believed that weight training was the best way to get there. At first, Dickerson was just training for function. He wanted to become a better singer. However, after a short trip to his aunt's house in California, Chris saw a photo of Bill Pearl in a magazine and realized the potential of what weight training could offer. Chris became obsessed with the lifestyle and even spent time in LA and even began training at Bill's gym to learn from the man himself. Bill was so impressed with Dickerson's attitude that he started to train the young bodybuilder immediately. And Chris took up work as a hospital orderly in LA to make ends meet while he was out there, with the bigger picture of becoming a world-class bodybuilder in mind. Chris started training at the age of 24, unheard of for anyone in the sport, especially when you're aiming for trophies like the Mr. Universe and Mr. Olympia. In 1965, 2 years after starting training, he entered his first competition, Mr. Long Beach, coming in third place. Rather than viewing it as a failure, Chris was happy with the results and still remembers the 1965 Mr. Long Beach as one of his favorite events. To this day, the trophy remains a sentimental favorite. I was never the same again after winning my first trophy, he said. Brimming with motivation, Dixon entered 12 competitions back on the East Coast in 1966 and won every single one of them. Within a year, Chris Dickerson had become a bodybuilding sensation, and it was only a matter of time before he would realize he was worthy of Mr. Olympia. In 1966, Chris had become a hot topic in the bodybuilding world, appearing in magazines and receiving a lot of coverage. He was fast becoming one of the most popular bodybuilders of his time. He believed his secret to success was all about proportions, with his calves, neck, and biceps all measuring exactly the same size. He was perfect for the aesthetic direction the sport had been heading in. Another reason why Chris is believed to do so well was because of his acting talent. His time in the New York Academy of Dramatic Art showed him the best way to present himself on stage to make the most out of his posing and overall physique. So, by 1967, he wanted to go to the next level, and he went back to Bill Pearl with one goal in mind, Mr. America. And by 1967, Bill and Chris were training 5 days a week and posing on the 6th, all in preparation for the Mr. America competition coming up that year. Unfortunately, he didn't win, placing 6th overall, but he kept going. And by 1970, Chris was both Mr. America, the AAU, and Mr. Universe, NABA. Chris was dominating both the AAU and the NABA federations, and even when moved over to England to win more NABA titles as they were European-based. He would continue to win NABA's Mr. Universe competitions for many years before focusing on the bigger prize, the IFBB's Mr. Olympia. Chris started his bodybuilding career with the IFBB in 1979. He was 40 years old, the age most athletes in the sport would be retired. But Chris was just getting warmed up. He wanted to become Mr. Olympia before he retired. One of his most famous Olympia competitions was in 1980 in Sydney, Australia. After a surprise last-minute entry from Arnold Schwarzenegger, Chris and many of the other bodybuilders present felt they would lose to Arnold on popularity alone. It seemed to be the case, with Arnold taking first place, Dickerson taking second, and Frank Zane taking third. In 1981, Dickerson came in second again, only this time to Arnold's close friend, Franco Columbu. He considered giving up and retiring until a Canadian official, Winston Roberts, told him, "Chris, if you don't come back, you are just going to make it easy for all the others, and they won't have to deal with you." And this is where the magic happened. And after Winston's advice, Chris decided to give it one last shot. And in 1982, at the age of 43, Chris Dickerson finally became Mr. Olympia. After winning Mr. Olympia, he competed 3 more times. In 1984 in the Olympia, and he placed 11th, and he did 2 Masters competitions. In 1990, he did the 50 and over and came out in 8th place, and at the age of 55 at the 1994 Masters Olympia, he came in 4th place. After retiring and living in Florida, Dickerson did corporate security for years. He sometimes sang the national anthem before bodybuilding events, including the Mr. Olympia, wowing the audience with his operatic voice. And over the last 2 years of his life, his health began to falter, including a heart attack. On December 23, 2021, at the age of 82, Chris passed away. So what can you say about this man? He was truly a man of first. Not only was at the time the oldest Mr. Olympia, he's always been the shortest Mr. Olympia at 5'6" and won the title at 190 pounds. There was controversy surrounding his life, but I don't want to focus on that. This is the Masters Muscle channel, and I want to focus on the fact that he was in his 30s and 40s, and through sheer determination, stayed on top and became Mr. Olympia. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Masters Muscle, and I have 2 more to come. So be sure to like and subscribe to our channel and put a comment in below if there's somebody particular you want to see, because that really helps my algorithm. And once again, this is Yakov Baram with Masters Muscle.